Hello all, welcome to the free Java course. In this session, we will see how we can utilize conditions and looping structures. Now, before going into this course, I would highly recommend that you have to go to the previous session, which is about arrays. Otherwise, you will not be able to follow this session. Okay. So first, we will look at conditional statements. So what are conditional statements? It is nothing but in your real life, you will be taking some decisions, right? So those kind of decisions is done by the Java programming, right? For example, we are having a student, right? We will try to get the student marks from the student after he gives an exam, he or she gives an exam, and then we will see if the marks are greater than 50 or not. So based on this condition, we will decide whether the student has passed or failed. Now, if he or she did not get marks greater than 50, that student is considered to be failed. Now, if the student gets more than 50 marks, then the student will be marked as passed. So, these are the kinds of conditions that you will implement in your Java programming, right? So, this is called conditions. Now, after taking some decisions, we also want to loop, right? What do you mean by loop? If you want to do a certain action, I want to do it every time, maybe n number of times, depending on some other condition, right? Now, for example, there are exams going in a college. Now, in each section or grade, right, class grade, there may be 100 number of students, and when this each grade is taking exams, we will be able to identify how many students have passed in each class, right? But in order to find out how many students in that class have passed, you need to do certain activities. Like for example, we have n number of students, maybe 100 or 50 or 60, depending on the capacity of each class. We will take first student, right? So consider that all of them have given the exams. Now we have taken the first student, and then we will take second student, and then third student. So like that we will take the n number of students. So now in order to iterate and find out marks of each and every student, we will have to use a looping structure. So now if we want to find out how many students have passed in each class, what you should do? You should get student, right? You should get each individual student, and on each student you have to apply the condition that we have done earlier, like whether the student has passed or not, right? What you will do, you will first get the student marks, and if it is greater than 50, you will mark it as passed, and if the student has not scored more than 50, you will mark the student as failed, right? Now whenever the student has passed, we will increment the number of students passed in that class or for that exam, right? We will see that. Now I will be explaining these iteration between number of students on an array of students, right? So that is why we said before starting this session, you should be aware of how the arrays work, and that is covered in the previous session. So how are we going to explain the entire concept of conditions and looping? We will be working on something called classroom class, exam class, and other supported class like student or a staff member, all those things. And then we will try to mimic the scenario like a particular class is taking an exam and a staff member is invigilating the class, and then finally once the exams are over, the staff members will be correcting the papers and assign some marks, and once marks are assigned to each student, then we will decide who has passed and who has failed, and while we are evaluating this, we will also find out how many number of students have passed in an exam. Okay, so now let's jump into the Eclipse. Now before we get into the actual understanding of conditions and looping structures, we will work with these classes as I mentioned, and we will first declare some data members and methods so that it makes a real-time scenario. Okay, so whenever we are giving an exam, what all do you need? Let's understand that. You will need some set of students of a particular class. Then you need a invigilator. You also need in which classroom the exam is conducted, and you will also need on which subject you are conducting the exam. Okay, so in order to do this, we need to first add some more data members in classroom. So what we should have? We should have a class name. and we also want to have a size, like how many students can fit in a classroom. Okay, so we have declared these two data members. Now we will generate the constructors and also the getters and setters methods. How do you do that? You right click and then say source, generate constructor using fields. This is for creating the constructors automatically. So I want to have both the fields. Now if I want to have an empty constructor, that also we can generate. You do the same again, but here you will say deselect all the fields and then click on generate. So this will generate a empty constructor. You don't need super here because we are not inheriting any parent class here. Similarly, we want to add the getters and setter methods for the each data member. So how do you do that? Similar process. Right click, source, generate getters and setters. You select all the fields and then click on generate button. So you will get the setters and getters methods of these two data members. Now let's do the same thing for exam also. So we needed students. So what we will do? We will have an array of students because in a classroom we can have multiple students. So whenever you are working with multiple objects, you need to go for an array as we discussed in the previous session. So in case you are getting a red mark under the student class, that means the class is not imported. You can press Ctrl Shift O, automatically the class gets imported. Now who else you want? You want an invigilator. And who is an invigilator? Invigilator is somebody, a staff member. So press Ctrl Shift O. Now these two are given. What else do you need? You need to have a classroom, like in which classroom you are conducting the exam. Now let us also consider that we are conducting exam for a particular subject. So for that I will give a string data member. For the scope of this session, we will only deal with single subject, and if you want to again go for multiple subjects, we may have to go for an array of strings so that you can have different subject names. Okay. So for this class also, I want to create some getters and setters methods and also a constructor. Now this constructor, I want it to be a empty constructor. I don't want to take data members because I first will create an exam object, and to that exam object I will assign some values. Deselect all and click on generate. We don't need the super. And now we will generate the getters and setters. Select all the fields and click on generate. So we have all the getters and setters of each of the data members present in the exam. Okay. Now let's get into the actual part, which is about dealing with the conditional statements and looping structures. Okay. So I've created an object for exam and then I will set a subject. Now we will set an invigilator here, which is nothing but a staff member. So I created a classroom here, which takes the name of the classroom and also how many number of students it can hold. Okay. So these are some of the basic things that you want to need for an exam. Now we need to have students also. So let's create some students. So instead of hard coding the number of students, what you can do is we can get the number of students from the classroom itself, because in classroom we have methods. If you see here, It says get classroom size. So I can use this method on top of a classroom object. So how will you first access a classroom object? You have to first get the classroom. How will you get that? You have a get classroom. So this get classroom is basically returning a classroom object. Okay. So when you are having a classroom object, on top of the classroom object, you can again call a method. Okay, which is about getting the size. Exam dot get classroom dot get classroom size. So if you are confused, you can do it in a different way also. Just say int first we will get the classroom. How are we getting the classroom? We are calling the method called get classroom, and this get classroom is actually returning an object of classroom, and an object of classroom I can again call another method which are available, which is like get size, get classroom size, and this integer I can give it to my array. So now before going into the conditional statements, I will talk about a particular looping structure so that I can define those many number of students. Okay. So please look at the syntax properly. This is for one of the looping structures. It will help you to understand properly. So now look at the syntax here. We are using a keyword called for. This is for a looping structure, and this particular thing has 4 parts. The first part is initializing. So if I want to iterate through an array, I basically have to access each student only by the index that we have seen in the session for arrays. Now if I want to loop an array with class size of 50, so I want to start with 0. So I am initializing a variable I to 0. And the second part is the condition as for how long this for loop need to be running multiple times. Okay. So what is the condition here? As long as the value in the variable I is less than the class size, you have to repeat the instructions in the for loop. Okay, this is called a for loop. Now, because we have initialized I variable to 0, now in order to access each and every student one by one, I have to increment my I variable by 1. Okay, so that you can do by this particular statement, that is I plus plus. Now what is I plus plus doing? It is same as I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so what are the three parts here? One is initializing a variable, second one is a condition as up to when you want to run the loop, and then how you are changing the value of I, right? Or you can put any other things if you want. Okay, now the fourth part is the code inside the for loop. Okay, so what we are going to do here is I am going to create 50 students now. How will I do that? It's very simple. So what are we doing here? We are trying to access each individual student present inside the exam. Okay, and as the I is 0, you are starting with the first student, and once the instructions are completed in the for loop, the I value will get incremented, and then I will become 1, later 2, 3, and so on. It will go till 49. When it becomes 50, it will not go inside the for loop. Okay, because I is 50 and 50 is not less than 50. So once I becomes 50, it is no more less than the class size, that is 50. But we wanted to store 50 students. Why are we not doing for 50? Right? The reason is the index is starting from 0. So from 0 to 49, we will have 50 students. And 50 will become actually 51st student. Okay, so that is why we have to take one number less than the class size. So here in the loop, what we are trying to do, we will be creating a new student. So instead of giving some names, I am giving a student name plus I am giving some value here, I plus 1, which means when I is 0, the actual value for I plus 1 will be 1. When I is 1, the actual value for I plus 1 will be 2. So we are declaring or creating objects for each student with different names here. Okay, this is how you can give a running name to a student. In real time, this may not be the correct, but for the sake of explaining you the for loop, I am giving you how you can run the statements in a for loop. So what is happening here? This particular statement gets executed 50 times. So whatever code is present in this for loop will be executed the number of times based on the condition. And once the steps inside the for loop are executed, then it will execute the third part in the for loop, that is I plus 1, I plus plus, and then it increments the index to 1 more. Okay, if you want to see if it is working fine or not, you can basically print it also. So this is the for loop. This is one of the looping structures. Like this, we have another one also, which is called while. We will see that later. Now let's execute this program so far and see what is happening. So if you see here, it has printed 50 students details. So what we have done here, we have dynamically generated 50 students. Okay, and we have given a dynamic name to each of the students. So I'll also generate the toString so that we'll get some details about the examination. So here I am trying to create the return string. Okay, first I am saying exam for the subject, and then I am saying exam is conducted in a particular classroom. So here I am giving this particular special character. This helps us to print in a new line. Okay, that is why we are adding it. And then I am appending all the values to the same variable. Okay, now I got the object for invigilator, but I also want to print the name of the invigilator. So we need to see if we can access the name of the invigilator or not. Yeah, so we can give the name also. So I also added some lines so that we can understand clearly. Okay, I don't want to print every time iterating through it, so I am giving like this, and then we will say exam dot toString. Now we will run this and then see what is going to come. So here it is saying exam for subject Java programming. Exam is conducted in the classroom. Invigilator for the exam is Srinivas, and total number of students is 50. Okay. Now what we will do, we will conduct the exam. Okay, how we will conduct the exam? We will write a method where we will iterate through each student, and then we will execute the give exam method of the student, each student. So here again we will have another looping structure. I am telling it with a different looping structure so that we can learn the next looping structure. So here what are we doing? We are conducting an exam for all the students. Okay. Now instead of using a for loop, I am using a while loop. This is also similar to for loop, but only the syntax is little different. What happens here is, in while you will have only one parameter to that, and that is a condition, and we will be incrementing that value. So here we are, for this particular program, we want to increment through each and every student. That is why we are using this incrementing of I value. But there can be any other conditions also. Based on whatever conditions you want to give, you can give. Okay. So this is also a conditions that we are talking about, right? We are talking about taking decisions. What decisions are we taking here? We are basically saying that this particular code present inside the while block should be executed n number of times. And how are we determining that n? Based on the condition, right? So I is starting from 0 and we are incrementing one by one, and it will continue to do it until you get I is 50. because our classroom size is 50, and then as long as I is less than 50, you will execute all the statements which are present inside the while loop. So now I will access each and every individual student and then basically give exam. Okay, looks like the give exam method is not having a proper access modifier. So if you do not know what are access modifiers, I would recommend you to go to the session where I have explained about access modifiers in Java. So let's go into the student class and make that particular method as public. So here we have a particular two parameters that you have to give. One is exam for, like whether it is half yearly exam, quarterly exam or final exams, and then what is the subject you are giving exam for. So for example, I am hard coding it to half yearly. And then the subject we already have, so we can use that. So like this, each student is giving an exam. Okay. So once we have created that method, you can call that method here so that the all students will give the exams. So how will you call that? Exam dot conduct exam. Okay. Now once the exams are over, what will happen? The next step would be to correcting the papers, right? So that we will write another method. And while correcting methods of each and every individual student, we will also assign some random number of marks that they got in that subject. So here again we have to loop through each and every student and then correct the paper and give some random marks. So for now each student should also hold the number of marks that the student has got. So for now we will add a data member in student so that it can hold the number of marks. In real time this may not be the case, it will be something different, but for the sake of explanation I am giving it here. I am putting it as public so that I can directly access it. I don't want to spend time on generating the getters and setters. So now I will use the same loop again and correct each individual student's papers. So who will be correcting the papers? The staff member. So we also have a method for a staff member also. So for now I am taking the invigilator itself to correct the papers of each and every individual student. So let's see the one of the method in the staff member, which is correction. Okay. So for correction, what I will do, I will pass a student detail. Okay. So for that, what you have to add a input parameter here. And here I will use one random method which will generate number from 1 to 100 and then it will assign marks to this particular student. So here I have written a small code which will basically generate a random number every time you call the same method, and then we will say std dot marks for a subject is equal to random marks. Okay, so this method basically takes input as a student and for that student it is randomly assigning some number between 1 to 100. So now in the correction what we will do, we will basically give marks to each and every student that we are trying to access. So now with this code, you see that we will be accessing each and every student and the invigilator is actually correcting the paper and assigning some marks to each student. So here it is like not exactly doing in real time. We are instead giving a random marks to each of the students. Now we will call this method as well. So with this method, we see that the correction is done. Now let us put some print statements in that correction method to see if marks are actually getting assigned. So here what are we doing? We are also printing what are the marks that each student is getting. Okay. Now let's execute this exam code and see if we are getting the marks for each of them, and these marks should be randomly generated. So if you see here, the marks were printed for all the 50 students and the numbers or the marks are randomly generated. Now the next thing is the one of the other conditional statement like we are talking about is about if condition. Okay, so as we have seen in the slides, the student whoever gets more than 50 marks is considered to be pass, and then we will increase the total pass count for that particular exam. Okay, now we will see that example. So we will write a method which will basically iterate through all of these students and find out how many students have actually passed. Okay, so here it is up to you whether you want to use a for loop or a while loop. It's up to you. So now what I will do, I will try to access each and every student and get the marks that are being assigned to that particular student, and then with that marks we will find out whether the student is passed or not, and if the student passed, we will increase the count. So for us to find out as how many number of students have passed, we will make use of one static variable. So if you are not aware of the static variables, I would recommend you to go through the session where we explained about memory allocation in Java, where we have clearly mentioned how Java is differently allocating memory for a regular data member and then a static data member. So now this particular static member can be accessed even without creating an object, and it becomes common for all the exam objects. So here I will introduce you with one more keyword called if students of I dot marks for a subject is greater than 50. Okay, then we will increase the student pass count. So this is the syntax as how we use if condition. We have to give if as a keyword and you have to mention the condition inside the brackets, round brackets, and if this particular expression gets evaluated to true, sorry, there should not be a semicolon here. So if this expression gets evaluated to true, then the instructions present inside the if block will get executed. And if you want some other instructions to get executed, if this returns false, if this expression gets evaluated to false, you can mention as else. So now how the if condition works here, if the condition specified in the if brackets evaluates to true, then the if block instructions will get executed. But if the condition evaluates to false, then the code available in the else block will get executed. Now there are cases where we can write more number of conditions as well, and that can be done by using a keyword called else if. So let me do one thing. So here I'm just writing a special case so that I can explain you the if condition, how it will be used, how we can use else if condition. Okay. So I am just saying that if a particular student is having or scored marks greater than 32 but less than 50, then that student will be given another chance to write the exam, or else the student is considered to be failed. So once the for loop gets finished, we will finally have the number of students passed in this exam. So you can print it like this. So what we have done here, we have written a for loop. Inside that we have put a condition like if a student scores more than 50 marks, that student is considered to be passed. And if a student gets more than 32 and less than 50, that student will be given another chance to write an exam, and rest all will be considered as failed. Okay, and at the end of the for loop, I mean after finishing the for loop, we are printing the total number of students passed. So let us call this method and see if it is working fine or not. Now let us run this program and then see. So what happened here? We have randomly assigned marks, and then also we parsed through the marks of each student, and for each student we have applied a condition. So that is why we are getting different kinds of statements here. For some it is saying that they are failed, for some it is saying that that student will be given another chance, and finally it has printed the total number of passed students also. So this is how you can apply a logic of if conditions and then loop the instructions, so that the same instructions we want to execute multiple times, that can be done through the looping structures. So I will continue to create more and more videos so that you will learn. And if you like this content, I would request all of you to click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you will not lose any content coming in the future. Thank you so much.